So hello, dear listeners and viewers. This is Stanislav Kinka and our interview for the Ukrainian Review. Today, our guest is Ukrainian activist from Slovenia, Inna Demchenko-Fröhlich. She is one of those who organize events in support of Ukraine and fight on the informational front. Hello, Inna, and my first question. Describe, please, the situation in the Ukrainian community in Slovenia. How many people are there? What are their moods now, and what forms of organization do they have?
Hello, welcome to Slovenia from my side. So I will tell you that the situation in Slovenia with diaspora changed since the start of the war, because before we've got here about 2,000 of Ukrainians diaspora. Maybe some 500 were inscribed in the embassy, like officially staying here, but they were not very connected. Now with the war, with the big war, the situation changed, and we are now about, let's say, from 8 to 10,000. So it's still small amount comparatively to the other countries of the Central and Eastern Europe. The organization which exists in Slovenia, you can find them on the embassy side, Ukrainian embassy side. There are one more organization appeared before. After the war, they tried to help as much as it's possible to the Ukrainian refugees. That's why they had to have this status. So more or less, we've got about 4 organizations now. One was, like, we call it all diaspora. So it was composed out of the refugees of the war, but the First World War, people from the western part of Ukraine, Galicia. They were settled in Bosnia and other countries or Croatia, other countries of Austria, Austro-Hungary. Then a new wave generation of diaspora, very connected to the Russian diaspora. You know, before 2014, people were together, and they had the same language, the same history. So it was one part like big Russian diaspora, which is called Ruslo. It's still existing. You can find there in the page. And together with this big part of, like, say, Russian speaking, or they call it sootechestveniki, what means compatriots, it existed also Ukrainian wing. It's called Unity, it was called. And then after 2014, after the occupation of the Crimea, this wing stopped to exist because obvious facts. Though it is still existing at this, let's say, Russian site. So we don't exist there already anymore, but on the paper, on the page, we exist. There are one more organization which started to exist new after the war. They do a lot of efforts. They are called in Razom. My organization is called Ljubljana Kyiv. We try to work not just on the cultural field, but on, like you said, disinformation field. But it's not easy. It's not easy because we don't have any, we don't have tools, we don't have funds, we don't have good examples of working with disinformation. So it's not easy. Even though with some kind of organization we have here, it's not easy to fight something very organized and everything what exists already during a long time. I'm talking about, of course, Russian propaganda and Russian disinformation.
It's my second question.
So,
propaganda. Yeah.
Yes.
And how you can describe the informational field in the Slovenia? And if we move to the topic of the propaganda and anti-propaganda, how do you assess the strength of anti-Ukrainian thoughts or propaganda in Slovenia, and who is the main conductor? Who provides this anti-Ukrainian propaganda in Slovenia right now?
You know, I arrived to Slovenia about 15 years ago. It's 14, yeah, to be exact. When I arrived, I remember my husband is Slovene. He told me now when like we see what is happening in our Slovenian media, that before in Slovenia, when you say the word Russian, it was something connected to the humor, like something bad working, like something not correct done, you know. So like ridiculous. Now, when you say the word Russian, it's you have this idea of something like strong, something not resistant to America. And you have to know, probably you are visiting Europe, the big problem of European societies, I'm talking about whole Europe, it's a very strong sense, very strong feeling of anti-America. So if you oppose yourself to the Americans, something American, you are like hero, you know. So the problem is now you have Russians in general, or Russia Federation, I don't know, Mr. Putin has pretty big support among the average people. You have to know that in Slovenia, we are among these 10 countries which hate the America the most, among Iraq, among Afghanistan. So you see the situation in 15 years changed a lot. It's not by the miracle. It's not changed because of the miracle. It changed because you have here a lot of agents or bot, you know, and on YouTube, on Facebook, on these comments when you have after the newspapers, which were working constantly, regularly, and very effectively among the Slovenian people. And Slovenian people, I have to admit, as well as all Europeans, mostly all, maybe except Baltic countries and neighboring Ukrainian countries who know what is USSR, who know what is this problematic of the Cold War, really don't know. I don't want to offend anybody, but pretty naive. So the main idea now in Europe that this is not our war. This is not our war. They repeat it constantly. So in my opinion, to fight this disinformation, so like I probably understood, there were some agents who worked here. For example, in small country as Slovenia, they had about 50 to 60 official Russian embassy workers. Now there are just 12 left. There was a big scandal again that one Mr., I think his name was Sergei Lemeshev or something like that, he was almost openly working on Facebook and creating disinformation about European Union, like anti-American some messages. So they were working openly, even now during this the big war. So I think so. This idea of it's not our war, we Ukrainians, diasporas, institutions, diplomats, we have to change, because Putin in his speeches all the time, he's not fighting with Ukraine, as you remember with his speech, Stanislav. He is fighting with the West, with the NATO countries, and he's repeating it constantly. But countries of the West reminds me, I'm sorry about my compatriots, when I was calling them and telling, what are you reacting? It will be war soon, big war. You see, they are gathering at the boundary. No, they will not fight us. They will not do it. This is impossible. So Europeans now reminds me, my compatriots, Ukrainians, just before in February 2020. This is not our role. We close our eyes. We don't want to see the problem. So this is the problem of Europe. To fight this problem, so also to help Ukraine in Europe, empathy is not enough. Empathy is not enough. We have Ukrainians, I don't know, institutions. We have to prove with the knowledge. So what is missing here in Europe? They don't know almost anything. Okay, Timothy Snyder, he knows about us. Maybe some professors, they do. But people here in Slovenia, for example, they don't know about Holodomor. They don't know what is this. So how we can prove we have a genocide now if they don't know about genocide from before? So we have this problematic because we don't have a systemic tools of fighting disinformation. It's very good you exist now. It's very good stop fake exists. But to recognize the disinformation, it doesn't need to fight. So at my point of view, we have to prove with the knowledge, not empathy. Empathy doesn't work anymore. So we have to install, this is the problem already, which I think goes to the state institution, like, I don't know, maybe embassies can help with this. Installing the Ukrainian faculties. If you go now to Slovenian and Europeans higher education, yes, you have Slavistics, yeah, Slavic studies, but Slavic studies means Russian studies, you know. So this translation of the Kievan Rus doesn't work here because they say Kievan Russia. So this basic, which with which we cannot fight propaganda because they don't have basic knowledges, you know, Stanislav.
Yeah, sure, but you mentioned that you have no tools, but as I know, in April it was a presentation of the Ukrainian Review Journal and some presentation with the Ukrainian anti-fake specialists. They came to Slovenia, so some tools they could prove to you as organization, as an individual, to fight this Russian propaganda. I'm pretty sure that the basic level and the education is it's very necessary, but it takes years and years. And to combat this propaganda now, you need some universal tools. So, for example, maybe translation the some Ukrainian or English materials into the Slovenian to prove Slovenians that they are mistaken to think that the Russians do not want to fight with the European countries, etc., etc. So maybe it's some kind of the local situation in Slovenia, because in other countries in the West European and Central European countries, we can face completely different situations. So, for example, in Poland or in Baltic states, they have very strong anti-Russian sentiment, and the situation in Slovenia, of course, it's historically and cultural background prove that another situation. So what kind of tools do you need now the most?
Let me not agree with you, because if Polish would understand really what is happening, probably they will know now these boundary problems with the Ukrainian peasants. So I don't want to be like negative and black, or everything in black colors. This what you done, your journal and Stop Fake, it's very good. But there are still some problems. For example, Stop Fake arrived, and I'll try to connect to let know this information. They arrived just before the big holidays. Just before the big holidays. So it was Friday afternoon. Everybody left, and everybody went. Just they were really like people who really support Ukraine, mostly foreigners, so there were almost no locals because they went to holidays to Croatia, to the seaside. This is ridiculous, but this is how it works, you know. So you have to find this kind of information. You really have to know the local people and to local local traditions, let's say, habits, etc. So the main tool, at my opinion, keep going, keep working. I think you maybe Stop Fake. I don't know. There are some financial problems probably, but to fight effectively this kind of disinformation, which is installed here for centuries already, decades and centuries. Don't forget this. We have to have about, I don't know, 5 to 10 people constantly working on this problematic. It's my opinion. So 1 person, 2 person. You have to be really, really effective to change the situation. So it's an institutional problem which has to be shown to European institution. For example, I know that they recently, I don't remember this word in official. So recently, it was one disinformation law which started to be I forgot the word, who was let's say announced in July, I think 2023. So now they use this FIMI word, FIMI, so disinformation tools and stuff. Yeah, but once it happened to me to have kind of problem, and I saw this like disinformation, I called to European Union institution and I said, what should I do? I have this problem. This is disinformation. Yeah, go to the court, go to police, apply to police. So we have this problematic, not just Ukrainians and also Europeans, but they don't want to see it. If you show it, I'm being Ukrainian, for them it's a little bit, I don't know how to explain it to you, Stanislav. It's a little bit like they underestimate us. Who are you to explain to us? You know what I mean? So we have to make them understand here. And also, for example, I have some connection to France. And on average level, people know very bad our history. So at my opinion, first step to do this, like you said, it's translation of the literature. This kind of conference, Stop Fake Heads, but more constant, more translated videos. It has to be the tool. For example, maybe one organization had to be created, like Stop Fake Everywhere, you know? We have to prove with the knowledge. The translation of Kiev and Rus should be used, not Kiev and Russia. We cannot make them understand what we are fighting for if the translation of Kiev and Russia is still Russia. I will give you a very, very funny, ridiculous example. I was recently, I haven't watched them before. I didn't watch them before, this series of Vikings. Have you seen the Vikings series?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. No, I suggest you to see, but maybe you will get very angry as I did, because I was so like amused by how they showed the old Russian. You see, even me, I'm making the mistake. Russian, you know, like almost they were singing Katyusha, I don't know, or you know, like dancing this like they might say Kazachok, you know. So all these information, they don't know, like Hopak here is Kazachok, you know, Kiev and Rus here is Kiev and Russia. So all these basic things, we have to start from the very beginning. We cannot, they don't understand the essence. So we have to prove with the knowledge, first, historical lessons, like Timothy Snyder, he does, but in native languages. For example, if it's in France, it should be done in French. If it's in Slovenia, it should be done in Slovenia. For Slovene people, it's very important to have these information in their languages. They're very protective to their language. So Russian, for example, we understood this. Do you know the journal Russian Beyond the Headlines? Now it's called just Russia Beyond. Do you heard about this?
But Ukraine, before the war, has a lack of sources to provide their informational policy. If we sum it up, maybe it's a good idea to start some collaboration between your organization as a Ukrainian organization and some local medias in Slovenia to show the real situation in Ukraine, trying to translate some essence information for the local webs or local newspapers, because as I know that very little Slovenian journalists were in Ukraine, maybe none of them, and they assume this information from the second sources. And of course, if they don't understand Ukrainian, they use the Russian sources or other sources, and it's of course untrue, and this is a very big problem. And I'm totally agree with you that we need doing more as the Ukrainian Review and Anti-Fake and other different organizations. So maybe we can jump into the other question connected with the assistance to Ukraine. Could you tell us how the Ukrainian community in Slovenia assist to Ukraine by some medical or humanitarian aid from the start of this war?
I have to admit that Slovenia helps a lot Ukrainian refugees. This is really, we appreciate a lot. So the Ukrainian flag is still here. We also, the refugees get financial aid, which is pretty important, about 400 euros per month still. They had a transport during almost 1 year and a half. So it's a considerable help from Slovenia. Ukrainians who live here, they also created in the beginning, they created the kind of hub, or this was kind of stock building, let's say. So they were gathering the help and sending it to Ukraine. Different kind of organization helped, and also like private Ukrainians who were living here, they were sending it by the transport. Also, you have here one big, I don't want to make advertising, but it is true that it belongs to Ukrainians, the Ptuj Perutnina Ptuj. It's a big chicken factory, so they're really well known. So I know that they helped a lot. And I think even now, I think they still help constantly a place when you can bring your some help. But like I told you, like people, average people, the empathy feeling finished pretty soon. So after Bucha, yes, but then, you know, like people are getting used to the war. Something now, it's like normalization of the war. It's not good, but I have to admit that now people are much more worried about Palestine than about Ukraine. So you almost not hear about Ukraine. And I saw by my own eyes when it was like maybe 6 months after the beginning of the big war, that you have this, I forgot this word, like how you say, stroll, you know, in supermarket. And it was written Ukraine and it was empty. You know, so on the society level, it's forgotten. Let's say we are out of the big media, but the institutions are still working on it. So we have to admit this is still it still works. But you have to know that now it will be European elections. And Russia and Russian propaganda, they understand this very, very well. So they cannot fight.
In the election into the European Parliament, yeah?
Exactly, yes. And you have to know that the people who are going to vote, it's really ridiculous. I think statistic about the young people from, let's say, 18 to 35, I recently heard this information, it's about 10% of participation. 10%. It's also particularity of Slovenes. So what they do, Russians now, they make Slovene European in general people to doubt in the institutions. Everything is possible. All tool is possible. So I think they will try now to fight Europe from inside. So Europeans themselves will vote against Europe, like they did in Britain. So it was now everybody knows they were interfering in this election. So I don't want to be like very negative, but it's very, very, very how to say, it's pretty dangerous situation for Europe. You know, if they enter the parliament, if you would know some people who are trying to enter parliament from Slovenian side, you would be very surprised. I mean, in that sense. So openly pro-Russian parties. They even proved now in media Slovenian, it was information. This party who tries to enter the European elections, they got money, like in an envelope from Russia, and these people are still in the news that nobody applied, nobody went to police to sue them. You know, so how to explain it to you? Europe is still not, as my point of view, I live here and I also have connection to France. Europe, maybe Mr. Macron, thanks God, I think he woke up a bit, yeah? So he started to understand what is happening. But here on the average level of the Slovene society, people are not aware about the war. So what is happening with the Ukrainian community you asked me about? So Slovenian community, they help. I mean, the Slovenian state, they help. but also the problem, they help a little bit, how to say, I wouldn't say it secretly, but they try not to announce too much, not to provoke the public opinion to become negative. Because how to explain? To help Ukraine with the weapons, it's bad for them,
But we know that Slovenians help Ukrainians by the tanks, so they were sent in 2023 or something like this, and some kind of the Slovenian military equipment were transferred to Ukraine. So now the politicians, they are against continue to supply Ukraine weapons.
Not for the moment, but it's if there is a help, as I understood, now it's more sending without announcement. So they will not write articles about this. So I also remember, for example, here we have some friends, not a lot actually, like friends, people who really like understand the problems. They don't want to be shown. They want to help us, but secretly. It's not, how to say, if you help Ukraine openly, you take big risks here in Slovenia. Look at Žižek, Slavoj Žižek, famous philosopher here, like the most famous. I was watching recently his interview. He 5 times he repeated, I can lose my last friends in Slovenia. I can lose my last friends in Slovenia. It's a little bit with humor, of course. He has good sense of humor and provocation, I admit. But it was also true. So Slovenian left support Palestine, but they don't support Ukraine at all. And you have to know that in Slovenia, lefts, they were mostly at power with some small breaks. We also have bad news. For example, these days we were very surprised in Slovenia. You have to know that among the 12 countries which entered Europe recently, 2004, so it was 20th anniversary, Slovenia progressed the less. So in 20 years, we really did a small progress. So it's very concerning about what's happening. And at my point of view, Russia has something to do with this, because they choose Slovenia because Slovenia has very interesting geopolitical situation, and they understood this good political geographical situation. So it's like at the edge of the Western Europe, Balkan countries, Italy. So it's very important situation. So they started to work and then really did, I have to admit, very effectively, because look, in 20 years, we didn't progress so much. I would suggest to your journal to stop fake, maybe to start to work a little bit more, also to try really to find this kind of organization, maybe cooperate with the embassies to start. We have to have a person who take care about culture, who can take care about this diaspora. Slovenia is a small country, but they have a Ministry of Diaspora. They have Ministry of Foreign Slovenes, it's called. We have huge diaspora all over the world, and we don't have any institutions connected to it.
Yeah, I know that Ukraine.
So we have to.
Ukrainian non-government institutions. So I'm pretty sure that after this conversation, we could sum it up and give us review to some officials to work hardly and to prove that they are really interested to shift the positions of the Slovenians to pro-Ukrainian instead of pro-Russians. So I really very thankful to you for your time, and it's very interesting conversation. It's not very easy to hear that a lot of problems, but it's need to be here because sometimes the Ukrainians think that all around the world must to support them, but we need to fight for this support. And again, thank you very much for your time, and I hope that your institution, your organization will continue this work and to advocate Ukrainian and pro-Ukrainian ideas and spread this information.
I will just sum up, like you say, with some maybe few phrases, not to be too long and too negative. I have really to persuade and to ensure my compatriots, as well as all Europeans who understands what is happening in the world, don't give up. Everything is possible. If we don't believe in ourselves, we will not win. We have to believe in ourselves. We have to believe that we are doing something good and something we are right. It's our right to have our territory and it's our earth. So we have to fight this. But it's slowly. Believe me, Stanislav, it's slowly, but it's changing. So we have just to keep working. We don't have to lose our belief and lose our hope. We have to keep slowly, but we will do and we will win this Russian propaganda and this evil.